Hi everyone, here's what's bothering me today. When even Pat Robertson says that you've fucked up, you know you fucked up. And so that's really the core of it, is that the problem still continues. The problem of police brutality and police violence continues in spite of protest against it, and the various municipalities that pledged that they were going to defund the police, they didn't, and some in fact funded them more. What does it say when a literal dyed-in-the-wool evangelical right-wing Christian like Pat Robertson is finally on the right side of history about something? What does that say about the myriad of cops out there who now, probably support people like Pat Robertson, now probably feeling just a little conflicted? What does that say about the state of policing in general when even a old windbag of a neoconservative makes a valid point and says you need to stop this? That is a really poor reflection on policing. And yet, unfortunately, people keep saying defund the police or outright abolish the police. And then people say they're going to do that, and then they don't. So what is the path forward? How do we keep our communities safe? And how do we keep terrible cops off the streets? These are very loaded questions. There's no easy answer, nor is there an answer that would apply to all people equally. The way, for example, a rural community has to police itself versus, an area of Brooklyn, it's like night and day. Each community, each city is going to have to find its own solutions. And what those solutions are, it's anybody's guess right now, but something has to change. Because the system as it is right now, we said, if we record cops, sure enough, that will help solve the problem. Kind of just gives us more video evidence, which then brings us to the second problem. Cops, even with video evidence, still get off. Very few cops in total are charged. I think it's something like only 2% or even less than 2% actually end up being charged for misconduct. This is a problem where if you say, we now have the evidence and we're going to charge them, but those two things don't happen and cops still feel emboldened to do the terrible things that they do, that is a problem. That is a very deep cultural, institutional problem. And yet, unfortunately, the grim reality of policing is that this isn't going to change anytime soon, barring some kind of miracle. During the height of, I guess you could call it the height of the pandemic last year, a lot of people in North America were galvanized around the Black Lives Matter movement and defunding or abolishing the police. That was and still is a massive movement, and yet the police continue to kill unarmed men. There's the recent story with Daunte, and then there's this new kid who was shot after raising his hands in the air. He was literally following the cops' orders, and the cops shot him. There's only been so many weeks, and yet we already have 2 national stories about police brutality and police violence. It is a problem, and it's time for people to stop dancing around the issue and to stop thinking that protesting is just going to fix it. There need to be actual solutions. So let's talk solutions. Now, I'm working on something in the background that goes far more into detail on this, but in terms of community policing, one of the best ways to prevent most petty crimes is to take care of people in the first place. So having a strong and secure social safety net, taking care of people's needs, tends to eliminate the need or the desire or the necessity to steal money for food or to steal things that you can then sell in order to make ends meet. That's one way of dealing with this. Some people say that having local community officers, not again like police officers, but bylaw officers and mental health support people, stuff like that, have them from the local community and make it all very localized. That's another possibility that might work better for some places and might not work so well in others. And then you have the actual problem of police budgets are set by municipalities. And yet here in Canada, at least, I don't know about the United States, but people just don't really vote in municipal elections. It's really only elderly people who own property and care about property taxes who vote for municipal elections. And yet it's the municipalities that decide when and where your garbage gets picked up, the police budget, the general city operating budget, infrastructure, public transit, all these things that a lot of people like and rely on for their day-to-day affairs are under the realm of municipal politics. And yet we never think about challenging the political sphere from a municipal standpoint and using that as the avenue for affecting greater change for both societal change and for change in policy towards funding of police and how many police there are and which services get funding. There's probably a bunch of others, but these were like a bunch of other different methods and ways of addressing this problem. But these are the three that I hear most often in the circles I run in. If you have others, please share them below, share them with other people around the internet. Get the actual conversation about solutions going, because what we're doing right now isn't working. And that's what's bothering me today.